Hello again. I am going to present to you today the first chapter of the module, History of Economic Thought. This chapter called The Economic Thought in Old Ages. Regarding the objectives of this chapter, it is planned in the term that the learner will be able to understand the importance of studying economic thought, describe economic thought in Babylon, discuss economic thought in Egypt, discuss Greek economic thought, analyze the economic thought of Plato and Aristotle. This lesson includes an introduction, the concept of economic thought, the importance of studying economic thought, the economic thought in old ages, and a summary. This chapter defines and explains the nature and significance of history of economic thought, and evaluates the development of economic thought through the eyes of ancient Babylon, Egypt, Greek civilizations before exploring economic thought in the context of the 20th century. Concerning the concept of economic thought, it is human thought in the field of economic life, which is responsible for economic theories, the laws that govern the various economic phenomena, economic doctrines or prevailing economic systems in society, economic policies that include studying the best ways that a country can follow to achieve a specific goal, such as addressing inflation and unemployment. Regarding the importance of studying economic thought, it benefits us in many aspects, including previous scientific theories help us better to understand contemporary theories and ideas. Studying economic thought helps us to understand past mistakes and therefore avoid falling into the same mistakes made by those who came before us, benefiting from previous solutions, especially when present situations resemble past situations. Economic ideas in old ages can be divided into 1. Economic ideas in the early ancient Babylon, 2. Economic ideas in the early ancient Egyptian civilizations, 3. Economic ideas in Greek civilizations. We start with the economic thought in the Babylonian civilization. The Babylon state is one of the oldest states in history. The Code of Hammurabi was the first and oldest written laws known to humanity, dating back to 1800 before Christ. These laws addressed matters of agriculture, herding, trade, state courts, military affairs and slavery. The society in Babylonian civilization is divided into 3 classes: the wealthy and the soldiers class, the free artisan class, the slaves class. The Code of Hammurabi expressed the right of free individuals to own land and slaves. These laws also reflected the role of the artisan class. As for the slave class, it represented the 3rd class referred to in the Code of Hammurabi, being the exploited class deprived of their rights in Babylon. Now, we move to the economic thought in Egyptian civilization. The pharaonic Egyptian society was divided into 2 classes: the first class, the ruling class, the second class, included wage workers and slaves. The ruling class represented the strong central authority in Egypt, owned the main factors of production such as land, exempted from economic activities, and only engaged in intellectual work. The production pattern in Egypt was characterized by the following: division of labor between agriculture and animal husbandry, organization of financial and human resources. There was no division of labor among farmers, as the producers were the farmers. With regard to the economic character in Egypt, and concerning agricultural production, it is the basis of the pharaonic economy, and the production is distributed into 3 shares. The first share covers the needs of production and producers. The second share is provided to the state in the form of taxes. The third share is any surplus production that is distributed to the ruling class individuals. Concerning the commercial activity in Egypt was a secondary activity, where trade began through barter, and then commercial capital and usurious capital emerged. We get into the economic thought in Greek civilizations. The Greek civilizations is one of the oldest economic ideas recorded by humans, those studies presented by Greek philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle. The Greek philosophers left us with correct economic ideas and scientific materials useful in the fields of mathematics, astronomy, engineering, and mechanics. The Greeks were the first to use the term economics. Oikonomia meaning household management. We start with economic ideas of Plato. In his famous book, The Republic, or The Ideal City, Plato began his analysis by explaining the origin of the state, stating that the state arises because the individual cannot suffice for himself alone. Individuals come together so that each of them can satisfy the needs of others, and in this way the state is formed. Plato presented his economic ideas for organizing the state as follows. 1. Among Plato's prominent ideas is division of labor, where each person should specialize in a specific profession, thus increasing productivity. 2. Plato divided society into 3 classes: the ruling class, whose task is governance, the soldiers, tasked with defending the state, and the workers who engage in economic activities. 3. Plato prohibited the ruling and soldiers' classes from private ownership and forming families, allowing only others to do so. The reason is that wealth and family ties can make individuals susceptible to temptation and familial weakness, diverting them from governing. 4. The importance of money as a result of division of labor, where Plato considered money as a means of exchange. 5. Plato opposed usury because the lender did not participate in any work, as he believed that money does not beget money and that money is a symbol of exchange. With regard to economic ideas of Aristotle, Aristotle is considered one of the ancient thinkers who relied on analyzing economic phenomena and problems. Among Aristotle's economic ideas are the following: the economic foundation of the state. The state is not just a gathering of individuals for the purpose of exchange as Plato suggested, but a gathering of families and villages in a self-sufficient community. Respect for individual ownership. Aristotle criticized views that called for the establishment of collective ownership, as in his view, collective ownership leads to conflicts among individuals, which is why Aristotle preferred a system of individual ownership. Economic analysis. In Aristotle's philosophy, Aristotle began analyzing the economy based on the idea of self-sufficiency for families, division of labor, and exchange. Concerning the theory of value, Aristotle distinguishing between 2 types of value for each commodity, use value and exchange value. He emphasized that there is a relationship between the 2 values, with the former representing appropriate use and the latter representing inappropriate use of value. Concept of monopoly. Aristotle condemned monopolies and monopolistic prices because they do not achieve justice. The functions of money. Aristotle's view on money differed from Plato's, as he added a 3rd function to money in addition to its known roles as a medium of exchange and a measure of value, which is that money is a means of preserving wealth in the form of savings. Prohibition of usury. Aristotle criticized interest as usury, considering money in his view as existing to facilitate the exchange of goods. This table represents comparison between Plato and Aristotle ideas. The 2 philosophers had contrasting views on several economic concepts. One of the most fundamental differences between the 2 philosophers was their view to the ownership. Plato prefers public ownership, without completely opposing private ownership, while Aristotle prefers private ownership. Another difference between the 2 philosophers was their view of the functions of money. Plato believed that money is medium of exchange and a measure of value, while Aristotle added a 3rd function to money, which is that money is a means of preserving wealth in the form of savings. Another difference between the 2 philosophers was their view of the economic foundation of the state. Plato believed that the state is a gathering of individuals for the purpose of exchange. In contrast, Aristotle believed that the state is a gathering of families and villages in a self-sufficient community. This was the first chapter to the course, History of Economic Thought. It can be said that the economic thought in ancient civilizations was influenced by philosophical perspectives and was not clearly imbued with scientific principles. We are coming to the end of this video. Thank you for paying attention.